Venezuelan president says 4 more people have been arrested after a failed incursion attempt. A former US veteran says he organized the raid, which Venezuela claims was ultimately orchestrated by Washington.
I have to report that 4 new terrorists have just been captured. I've already ordered the foreign minister to send a set of reports with the corresponding videos, with the corresponding contracts on this aggression conducted by the United States government and Donald Trump against Venezuela.
The US denies any involvement. 2 of its citizens were among the first arrests, though. They were detained on Monday and identified as former Special Forces soldiers. During President Maduro's virtual news conference, the questioning of one of the men was televised. With more on all this, Caleb Maupin.
U.S.-Venezuela tensions are high once again. The Latin American socialist country says it has held off an armed incursion. Now they've captured mercenary fighters, 2 of which are U.S. citizens. And one of the mercenary fighters says the plan was to detain Maduro and hand him over to the United States.
The only instructions that I received from Jordan was to ensure that we took control of an airport for safe passage for Maduro and receiving of airplanes.
On Wednesday, we heard a full denial from Mike Pompeo. He says the United States was not in on the plot. However, he's now making threats unless the 2 detained U.S. citizens are released.
There was no U.S. government direct involvement in this operation. If we'd have been involved, it would have gone differently. If the Maduro regime decides to hold them, we'll use every tool that we have available to try and get them back.
President Maduro maintains he knows exactly who is responsible for the raid.
We were able to uncover this terrorist incursion of which we have been victims. We know that the United States government assigned the Drug Enforcement Agency to plan this action and assigned the private company Silvercorp for the operational planning. The government of the United States of America is fully and completely involved in this raid, defeated by the solid civic military police union of Venezuela.
Silvercorp is an American corporation headed by Jordan Godreau. There's now video of him confirming the botched operation. Silvercorp has also threatened to kill an RT Spanish correspondent after she tweeted about an alleged invasion into Venezuela.
As a journalist, I have followed the online account of this alleged war veteran, and who's said to have been decorated 3 times back home for his participation in the Iraq War. After a long period of absence, he yesterday took to the online account of Silvercorp USA, claiming that his incursion would involve over 60 people here in Venezuela. I made a report, and this person replied that mercenaries may be paid to kill people, but he would kill me for free. Fortunately, I have received many messages of support from both the Venezuelan government and also from abroad. And so, now we move forward with our work, because the most important thing is to continue denouncing what's taking place in our country.
The Russian embassy responded to this public threat of violence.
We noticed an explicit threat to the RT journalist. U.S. authorities and human rights activists who keen on seeking out the violators of freedom of speech outside the United States keep silence. Apparently, they continue to celebrate World Press Freedom Day.
With the world shut down by the ongoing global pandemic, many would argue now is the time for cooperation between countries. However, it's pretty clear that U.S. leaders have decided that their efforts to destabilize Venezuela and topple its government must not be put on hold.
What is clear is that the Venezuelan opposition, Juan Guaido, the so-called interim president, has his name on his contract with the coup leader, Silvercorp mercenary Jordan Godreau. And at the very least, the Venezuelan opposition has turned to private means to carry out a military coup, which is technically an act of war. U.S. State Department is very embarrassed by this. They don't want anything to do with it, whether or not they did have fingerprints on the operation. And now it appears that Jordan Godreau, the ringleader who was contracted by Juan Guaido, will be prosecuted by the U.S. government for arms trafficking. So they're clearly trying to establish legal distance with Juan Guaido. So it just makes Trump and his team look like a bunch of buffoons on the world stage.